In a press interview I watched recently, a great, well-respected, influential African personality has this to say: Africa does not need democracy. Africa needs military dictatorship. A system where the great leader, focus and resolve, can take decisions and cut down the bureaucracy of democracy and get things done and move the nation forward. Now, what's your take on this? Watch this documentary from Coups of the Ancient.
Africa needs dictators. Africa needs military dictators.
That sentence is no longer whispered, it is being applauded. Across West Africa, military leaders are taking power and thousands are celebrating. But this is not new. Africa has been here before. After independence, coups swept across the continent. They promised order, they promised sovereignty, they promised discipline. Some were praised as saviors, some became strongmen. So why is this cycle returning? In 2026, more Africans are saying it out loud. Crowds cheer as military leaders take power. French troops are expelled. New alliances are formed. And democracy once celebrated is now being questioned. Why? Is this a dangerous regression? Or is West Africa witnessing the birth of a new political era? To understand Ibrahim Traoré and the support he is currently enjoying among Africans of the younger generation and even the older generation, to appreciate the increasing endorsement of military style of governance in the region, we must first understand history. After independence in the 1960s, many African nations inherited weak institutions, artificial borders, economies built for extraction, Cold War pressure. Between 1960 and 1980, Africa experienced over 70 coups. Nigeria experienced it first in 1966, followed by repeated experiences and a civil war. In Ghana, Nkrumah was overthrown. Burkina Faso repeated military seizures. Uganda saw the emergence of Idi Amin, and on and on.
Military coups and military governments swept through a great part of the African continent.
Why did this happen? Because independence gave political freedom, but not structural stability. Militaries were often the most organized institutions, better funded than civilian systems, seen as corrective forces. The pattern was familiar: civilian corruption, public frustration, military intervention, popular support, gradual consolidation of power. History was already setting a template. In 1983, another young military officer took power in Burkina Faso. Thomas Sankara. He spoke of anti-imperialism, economic self-reliance, African dignity. He nationalized land, vaccinated millions, promoted women's rights, rejected foreign dependency. To many, he became a symbol of what military leadership could be. But 4 years later, he was assassinated. The lesson? Charismatic military reformers can rise quickly, but power structures push back. For 2 decades, coups declined, democracy expanded, but between 2020 and 2024, Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, all experienced military takeovers. Why the resurgence? 3 major factors can be identified. 1. Security collapse in the Sahel. 2. Youth unemployment crisis. 3. Growing anti-French sentiment. Broken down, jihadist insurgencies spread in the Sahel regions. Civilian governments in these countries struggled and failed to meet up with economic, social and welfare needs of the people. Foreign military partnerships failed to stabilize regions. For many citizens, democracy began to feel symbolic, not functional. And in moments of insecurity, populations often trade liberty for order. History shows this pattern is not uniquely African. It is global. At 34 years old, Ibrahim Traoré became one of the world's youngest heads of state. Young, military, nationalist, anti-foreign influence. To supporters, he represents sovereignty, boldness, resistance to external control, a break from elite politics. Burkina Faso expelled French forces, strengthened ties with Mali and Niger, shifted geopolitical alignment. The alliance of Sahel states was born, but critics warn, military governments centralize power, civil liberties shrink, Transitions back to democracy are uncertain. This tension is not new. It is the eternal debate: stability or representation, order or accountability. For decades, France maintained influence in its former colonies through military agreements, currency systems, strategic partnerships. But public opinion began shifting. France's relation with its former African colonies is increasingly being perceived as exploitative and self-serving. Russia's increased presence is apparent. Security partnerships diversified. Western influence weakened. This is not just about coups. It is about global power realignment. The Sahel is becoming a geopolitical battleground, and young populations are watching carefully. So is military rule the answer? History offers no simple verdict. Military governments often rise during crisis. They promise discipline, they promise sovereignty, they promise protection, but history also shows power rarely surrenders itself easily. West Africa stands at a crossroads. Is this a temporary correction, or the beginning of a new political chapter? Only time and institutional resilience will decide. History does not move in straight lines. It moves in cycles. When institutions weaken, power concentrates. When trust collapses, strongmen rise. But whether military rule becomes renewal or repetition depends on what comes next. West Africa is not the first region to face this crossroads, but it may be writing the next chapter. So here's the real question: is this a temporary response to crisis, or the beginning of a long political shift? I want to hear your thoughts. Do military governments restore order, or repeat old mistakes? Let's discuss it respectfully in the comments. If you value deep, balanced African historical analysis, subscribe to Echoes of the Ancients. We don't just chase headlines, we examine patterns. If you'd like to support this work, share this documentary, because history deserves serious conversation.